Hello and welcome to the U.S. Open Health Desk presented by Mount Sinai. I am Mal Washington, your host, joined by Dr. Shawn Anthony, orthopedic surgeon specializing in sports medicine at Mount Sinai. Dr. Anthony, welcome. Are you enjoying the tennis?
It's been fantastic. Thank you.
Glad you're here. I appreciate your time and your expertise. Today, if we could, what we want to talk about is healthy ways to get started in tennis. At some point, every professional tennis player or weekend tennis player, they started in tennis somehow. What are some of the things they should be concerned about when they're starting tennis for the first time?
One of the first things I tell my players is that it's important to start a dynamic warm-up and flexibility training, both pre and post-game. We used to teach players that static stretching was good, and now the new science shows that dynamic warm-ups are better. So cold muscles need to be warmed up prior to play, so some simple things like running in place, jumping jacks, arm circles are all good ways to build up the core body temperature and get blood flow into the muscles.
So you've warmed up, you've done a level of stretching. What are some of the other things that beginning player can do when they first get out there?
I tell beginning players it's always important to have proper technique and form. So whether it's having the right grip or the right forehand, backhand stroke or serve, I tell them to seek out coaching or go to a tennis clinic to learn those basic principles. They're at much higher risk of having overuse injuries being a beginner player with improper technique.
So how does proper technique help a player or even help prevent injuries?
Hitting powerful serves or powerful forehands and backhands from baseline puts a lot of stress on the body. Especially the shoulders, elbows, and wrists are particularly prone to overuse injuries due to these high forces across the joints. Having proper form reduces those stress across the joints and protects the muscles and tendons, as well as maximizes performance for the player.
I mean, without question, there's a ton of demand on an athlete's body, whether you're that weekend player or you're a player here throwing down a serve 130 miles an hour. What type of things can they do to help meet those demands on their body?
You're absolutely right. Tennis is a very demanding sport and puts a lot of stress on the body. Building up core muscles as well as the legs is a great way to build power for a player. Some basic exercises like crunches, sit-ups, or planks are great ways to build the core strength. It's also important for players to cross-train. So sports like swimming are a good way to build up strength and conditioning and other muscle groups that they may not be building up just by playing tennis.
Years ago when I was on the tour back in the 90s, the night before a match, I might have a pizza, I might have a pasta, I might have a steak, but it just seems like diet and nutrition are so much more important. How important is that for that weekend athlete or that person trying to get to the U.S. Open?
Diet and nutrition are essential, especially on extremely hot days like today. Hydration is very important. Players can lose up to 1 to 2 liters of fluid per hour playing a match. And it's important to start hydrating yourself the day before the match and then continue that high level hydration throughout the match and even during the recovery period. In terms of foods, high carbohydrate diets like having toast and bananas are a great way in the morning to provide pre-game fuel before a match. And then lean proteins such as chicken or fish are a great recovery food after the match.
A lot of athletes are going to come out of a match sore. Lower back, elbow, maybe they tweaked, got something injured in a match. What type of things do you recommend for first-timers when they wake up the next morning and they are sore, but they still want to go out and play tennis?
You're right, it's very common to have soreness in the day or 2 days following a tough match where those muscles are being strained. It's important to hydrate a lot, have a well-balanced diet. And then if those sore symptoms or sore joints aren't improving after a couple of days, always a good idea to get checked out by a physician to make sure there's no more serious injuries going on. And that way you can limit your time off the court.
Dr. Anthony, thank you so much for your time and your expertise. Enjoy the tennis.
Thank you.
Make sure you check out usopen.org for more tips from Dr. Anthony and the staff at Mount Sinai. Until next time, this is US Open Health Desk presented by Mount Sinai.